How's it going, Ultra Warriors? This is Chris here with Gardeno Games and showing off my Mono Arc deck. And we just got second place at our Galaxy Cup, losing a close match against Gankun, a fellow channel host. Unfortunately, I got bricked up a little bit, but you know what? It happens. We draw bricks. That's just how card games go. So this is the deck list I use. I'll go through it kind of in an interesting way, but just in case you just wanted to see the deck, here it is. I thought it'd be more interesting to talk through the evolution of the deck and then come to basically, you know, how the deck is right here. I'll just do a brief rundown of people that just want to see this version of the list and then go away. Basically, the new Galaxy Armor Arc lets you swap power or speed from your drop onto your deck. So you're swapping your 3s from your discard onto your field over and over again. And so I think the only two that I have 4 of are the Arc, the Galaxy Armor, and the Solus Armor. And that's because this one gives a plus 1000. And I think that's basically the best combo. The strongest combo you have is essentially looping the Solus Armor over and over, so you get plus 1000 every turn. It just gives you plus 1000 every time. It's no commitment. You don't have to discard cards because these two, while they can boost the BP, so this armor boosts power, and the other one is speed type. The other one is power type and boosts speed type. So they're there to give power boosts, but they require you to discard a card, and this deck is low on cards, so that's why we focus on the Solus Armor. We've got Spherosaurus, which we'll come back to, the reason why he's so good later, but basically he's a specific tech. And then the 2s, just max out on consistency basically. The best one you want is actually the Arc because it mills the most cards and it gets you your scenes, which are very important. Again, like adding 1 card to hand in this deck makes a huge difference. Then we have our level 1s as expected. So the most important one besides the draw is actually the speed, because this one, these two are similar, right? They reveal the top 3, you can get in a speed or an armed arc and then add it to your hand, but then if you added something, you have to discard a card. This one can get speed, which means it can actually get you your level 1s from the top of the deck. But it's a small thing, does come up, so that's why I'd rather have this over the basic type, even though it's like this one's stronger or whatever. And then you have your 4 scene or 8 scenes. This is honestly mostly so that you get more hits off of this. Like I said, you want to add cards to your hand as much as possible because it's tight. Okay, so how did the deck start off? The deck didn't actually start off as a mono arc deck because I'm not a super fan of the mono decks in general, mostly because you only have one of these level 1s that draw cards. This one draws 2, or you have the one that searches, right? Because you only have one of these, it becomes very hard to build sort of like this card advantage to make sure that your like deck is a little bit more consistent. These searching level 2s make a big difference to do that. But and actually this card makes a big difference that lets you do this a little bit better, but I was not a fan basically. This card actually, I just want to touch on this really quick before we go into this more in depth, this is the best card in the deck in my opinion. It lets you discard a card from your hand and take 1 arc from your discard area except for the card you discarded and add it to your hand. So when you play this as a scene, it basically turns into anything from your discard. So if you're playing an arc, level 2 arc, and you grab this one, and you have lead as basically any card in your discard, so it helps you set up your level 3s, it helps you set up your Galaxy Armors way more consistently. And that's you know, one thing I love about this deck. It's very consistent. Granted that I lost in the finals because it was inconsistent for the most part. The reason you play this deck is because it's very consistent, and I like that about it. Okay, so back to the story. We started off as an Arc Z deck, and I can't remember the exact ratios, but I was not playing these guys. I was actually playing the old BP1 arc. This one lets you put a scene from your hand into play. This lets you kill your opponent's scenes. You draw a card from this effect as well, and then because sorry about that, because the main draw of the old deck was to play this scene, so you can discard a card and draw and give a plus 2000. But alongside these discards, it just didn't really make sense. So we kind of pretend. So I had something like that. So instead of kaijus, you know, there's about, let's see, take out 10 cards. We need a lot of cards here, right? And then we were playing a lot of the Z lineup, right? 4 of each, and then a few of the chance, because they let you bring these cards back. Basically, it gives you a lot of card advantage, and I was a big fan of that. So I think we had something like this, maybe even less of the level 2, something like that. I can't tell you exactly the ratios, but the goal was to do Arc and Z together, so that Z would help us draw a bunch of cards, and then Arc would kind of have these combos that help us play out the game. It ended up being that it wasn't as consistent as I would like, or rather, it's not that it wasn't consistent, but the Z lanes, because this one caps out at a 5,000, became kind of a liability. It's great to draw cards and all, but if you can't win the lanes, then it doesn't matter, right? So that's kind of, it evolved into something a little bit different, where I wanted to play more arcs to be more consistent. And I tried a version which didn't play this power one. We just played like this. and we had just the package like of 2, the only 2 and the 3, because I thought that like even if I just had those 2, they would help out with drawing some cards, which was something I was trying to fix with the deck. And instead of 4 and 4, I had 3, 3, and 2 for the scenes. So that was kind of what I was working with for a while. But again, the issue came up where like it's great to get the cards, but I didn't like losing the lanes all the time. So I took out everything and decided to take advantage of the fact that the deck can discard cards through the level 2s. It can discard cards to get anything back with the scene. And it can discard cards from the level 3s as well to just play a bunch of kaiju. So I did have a build that ran, I think the build looked like this. It was like 10 level 1s, 12 level 2s, and then 12 level 3s with 4 Darklops, 4 Spherosaurus, and all your scenes and all that goodness. So the Darklops I actually really like. This was partially because I took out this arc. I was really worried about scene-based decks like Mebius and Blazar, and I want to be able to pop their scene. So I took that out. Let's put Darklops in. And I'm a big fan of Darklops. I think it's a pretty strong card. It's just not a good card early game. It's a good card late game where you're kind of messing up their play right at the end of the game. But it's the 9,000 power. It's kind of rough. It's kind of rough. And one thing that I noticed about this build in particular, as you can see here, is these 2 arcs, while they have the effects that I want the most, this one gives plus 1,000, and this one boosts a power, which is the soul. Saturn boosts the Solus up 1 BP. They both cap out at 16,000, which is too low. Like I was complaining about the Z card that caps out at 15,000. Now I'm limiting myself to 16,000, which means I'm really only competing when my opponent doesn't have full triples set up. So the power level ended up being too low. So I had to ditch the Darklops to add in, more consistency. I wanted to make the 100% consistency with my level 2s so that I could be searching out my cards. There's a lot of times where I have the 2s but not the 1s, so let's get 12 and 12, make it pretty solid there. And then I wanted to try the Galaxy Armors. I didn't originally use these. Let me go find them. Where are you? I thought I had you ready. I originally used just the 17,000 vanilla. Sorry for coughing, still recovering from a bit of a cold. So I just used a 17,000 because I just wanted to make the numbers. I wanted to say if I have a triple, I can swap it to a 17. If I play the speed type on it's a double, it's like a 2-3, then I can use this one on a triple, and so I have 17-17, and I just wanted the big numbers. But I ended up swapping over to this one because I wanted to have a lot of consistency, or I wanted to be able to boost power as much as possible, because you do run out of cards, and it doesn't help you if you have like 17s. You want to be able to play, make a surprise play where you do a 2, a 3, and then I can have this one in my discard and swap it up with the Galaxy Armor, and boom, and then it's a 17. Or I can play this one from my hand. Boom, it's a 17. Swap it to my Soulless Armor. Boom, it's an 18, right? So having the ability to bump the powers up ends up being more valuable than the 17,000. So that's kind of how we ended up at this list. And okay, so I think that pretty much covers the basics of it. It's a pretty tricky deck to play because you need to remember that you can swap types too. So I made a mistake earlier where I had my Galaxy Armor out, and I had, it's hard to explain, but I had my first column, I had a speed, my third column, so there's something that my Galaxy Armor was in the middle or something like that, and I had a power here, and my opponent had a card that was getting BP boosted because of the power. So what I should have done is on one turn, I should have taken my speed, put it in my discard, swapped it for a Soulless Armor. Then the next turn, I could take this Soulless Armor and swap it with my Saturn Armor to now have a speed in that lane so that I would win that lane. This is not something I had thought of or had enough practice thinking about, so I didn't see that play during the game, and I think I lost because of it, or I could have won a lot easier because of it. Anyway, that's something that you have to keep in mind, that you can actually swap the types, and if your opponent's not expecting that, then it's a big bonus for you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I promise I'd talk more about Spherosaurus. This is honestly what makes or breaks the deck, in my opinion, because you can't be playing a deck that loses to what is it? What does it lose to, everybody? You cannot be playing a deck that loses to Mebius, right? Mebius Hikari is the deck that's all over the place right now. It's a deck that Gankun is playing at the moment. He really likes playing Mebius. So Mebius Tiga, Mebius Hikari, Mebius Blazer, whatever it may be, we needed a tech to help us beat Mebius. And Spherosaurus is that tech. And that is because when this character's battle opponent has type basic, increase this character's BP by 1. So it goes from a 9,000 to a 15,000. So if they don't play a basic, then that's kind of okay. They really have to call it out. So the thing that you need to know about Mebius decks, especially Mebius Hikari, is that all the level 2s that they want to play, if they want to play a 1-2, every single one is a basic type. So what I like to do is I like to play this one early, because they're going to have a basic type for almost guaranteed, or they're going to want to play a basic type to build up to a triple. And so what this does is it essentially forces them to play a triple on that lane when they may not want to, or they may need to save it for another lane. So in terms of card numbers, I get to spend 1 card and they have to spend 3 cards to just beat me out. And I don't mind losing because they spend so many cards. And so it's kind of the opposite of a level 1 draw, in the sense that this one lets me get more cards in my hand, but this one forces my opponent to play more cards. So because of the basic typing, because they have a lot of basics, it's really good in the late game to help me win at the end, but it's also very good early game because it forces them into an awkward spot where they might have to play in a way that they don't want, just so that they don't lose. So it's really important. I think I played Gankun a lot, and I came up with this idea to help the Mono Arc deck beat him, essentially. And this I wouldn't say it swung the matchup in my favor, but it felt very difficult, very, very difficult, maybe closer to unwinnable, to doable, just because of this card. Now, the other thing you might be wondering is, hey, Chris, what about Zeton? Are you worried about Zeton? The answer is no, I'm not worried about Zeton, because we play in the English meta, and Zeton doesn't exist in the English meta. That's mostly a joke, because it's impossible to get their hands on them, and anyone that has them, I think, is keeping them. So I just kind of play as though it doesn't exist. If it did exist and people were playing it, or I was taking this deck to a big major tournament kind of thing where I would expect the people to ball out for Zetons, I would sorry about that, I would be playing the 0 RRR from the starter deck, and I will have a video about that. kind of idea in the future. So look forward to that. So yeah, that's Spherosaurus. This is the secret sauce that makes this deck compete in the current meta. And that's the deck. Pretty much not much else to say. I think this is a card that maybe is worth talking about just to finish it off, where it was the powerhouse of the deck in the past, but now it is mostly just an extra piece to grab off your scene searching arc to help you just get extra cards. And if you have it in play, it's a huge bonus, but you're not looking for this. This isn't the card that's going to make or break. It's not going to win you the games. The card that's going to win you games is the Galaxy Armor. This is just the cherry on top. Arc to the Future is just the cherry on top. That's it. I think I'm just going to keep rambling, so I'll call it off there. Hope you enjoyed seeing my mono arc deck profile. When you go mono, there's not much options, but I thought it'd be interesting to see my thought process on how I ended up with this construction of the deck, why I use Spherosaurus, and what I think the best cards in the deck are. So thanks for watching. You'll definitely see some matches with this in the near future, and I'll catch you later. Peace.